Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal stories, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome to the Follow Brand Podcast. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, where we are here to help you to build a 5-star brand that people will follow. And we're taking you on an insightful journey through the world of oncology with a very special guest. Imagine facing one of the most brutal battles of your life, cancer. Now imagine having a guide who's not just an expert in the field, but genuinely cares about supporting you every step of the way. And that's exactly who we have with us today. Dr. Tiffany Trostle-Sandoval is a medical oncologist with 25 years of experience specializing in breast and gynecologic cancers. She's dedicated her career to helping patients fight and win their cancer journey. And in this episode, Dr. Troso-Sandoval will share how her work goes beyond medicine. She's a compassionate advocate, a fierce believer in patient-centered care, and now the founder of Winning the Cancer Journey, her new platform to empower patients and caregivers with the knowledge they need to navigate this challenging path. And we'll talk about the monumental shifts in cancer treatment, especially in the realm of precision medicine and immunotherapy, which are saving lives and transforming how we approach oncology. But it's not all easy. Dr. Troso-Sandoval sheds light on the often unseen challenges from the corporate world of healthcare to the burden of administrative tasks that sometimes keeps doctors from their true calling. And she also gives us an honest take on technology's role in healthcare and where she thinks we can draw the line between AI-driven solutions and the irreplaceable human touch. So whether you are a patient, a caregiver, or someone curious about the future of healthcare, this episode is a must listen. So get ready to be inspired, informed, and tune into this journey of Dr. Tiffany Trostle-Sandoval on the Follow Brand Podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow.
Sounds good.
Welcome, everybody, to the Follow Brand Podcast. You know, I don't always, and I say this a lot on my show, I don't always get to go, but I'm telling you guys, I have not been to Long Island in New York in so long. I'm craving some pizza right now, actually. So she is such a great person. I mean, how many people do you actually meet, like, that's a doctor, that's a physician, that has a great personality? That's Dr. Tiffany. She has just a fantastic personality. I love talking to her. I'm going to bring her up. We're going to talk to you about some of the things that she's been doing the last 20, 25 years in this space and why she feels so strong about this upcoming conference. So, Dr. Tiffany, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Well, I don't know that I can do better than what you just did. Wow. Well, thank you very much. So I'm Dr. Tiffany Trostle-Sandoval, and I am a medical oncologist. I worked at Memorial Sloan Kettering for 25 years. I subspecialize in breast and gynecological cancer. Due to some of my own health-related issues, I have now decided to branch out on my own, and I have started a new company called Winning the Cancer Journey. Very excited to be here.
Winning the cancer journey. Just picture that, especially if you're recently diagnosed with something like that. You're like, man, this is a journey. This is a challenge. This is something I've got to get on top of and really, to do what I need to do to make this the best outcome possible. Now, you've got 25 years in this space. You've seen a lot of change. And before we go into just the conference of itself, talk to us about, from your lens, 25 years, you've made it now a little pivot in your life. What have you seen that's changing in the oncology space that you like, and some of the things maybe not so much?
I could do a whole section on that. So some of the things that are very, very exciting, and I'm not sure if we're going to get into this a little bit more later, but oncology has now become a precision medicine field in that DNA and abnormalities in the cancer cells, or DNA abnormalities that the patient holds that's hereditary, really has become in the forefront of where we try to target therapy. So back when I started, we didn't have a lot of targeted therapies, and it was really chemotherapy or hormone therapy that we were utilizing. Herceptin came up along the time while I was in practice, and that was a very big deal, obviously, for certain types of breast cancers, and is now utilized in multiple types of cancers. But now we're eons past that. In fact, in most patients' cancers, especially in the advanced setting, we're doing a whole DNA profile of each tumor so that we know exactly what's wrong with it and can pinpoint certain types of treatments to give them. The role of immunology and the role of immunotherapy is so exciting. Never did I think or believe 20 years ago that there would be such a way to treat and potentially cure certain cancers, even when they're metastatic. I have numerous patients that had certain types of uterine cancer, for example, that received immunotherapy that were sent to me on hospice and are now thriving and living a cancer-free life. And it's something that we could never have even fathomed 20 years ago. In terms of what I don't like, let's see. I don't like how medicine has become more corporate. I feel that the majority of physicians now, in order to survive, we're all working for big corporations and we're working for big hospital systems. And it really makes it difficult to practice medicine the way you really want to practice medicine. And you're constrained, unfortunately, because of insurance and getting reimbursed, and RVUs, which are things that they look at, how productive you are, constrains how you can actually have time even to spend with the patient. And then I guess my last one, since I gave you two good, I'll give you two bad. The other one that I think is ruining medicine is EMRs, electronic medical records. They are the bane of every physician's existence. And every day you would wake up and there would be another task that you needed to do or perform on the computer for patient care. And, it ranged from putting chemotherapy orders in to the billing component to every single test that you wanted ordered, entering it on the computer. And then you go home at night and spend hours and hours writing, typing on the computer to, create the patient's charts that were of complexity enough that you would get adequately reimbursed by insurance companies. So none of that is what you went to medical school for, I promise you.
I am so glad you brought that up, because I've been in technology 25 years. I've been in the healthcare, meaning the health tech space, for probably the last 7 of those years. And what you said, so I want our community to really understand that you went to school to practice medicine, to cure human beings, not to be a data entry clerk. And we've got to stop that. And I know why. Some of that I know why they did it, 10 plus years ago when they passed, meaningful use, and they needed to get this in. And there's a lot of government grants out there. But I think they were just doing, just-in-time training on a lot of these systems. But we're starting to get to the level now where you can do some automation with the just the transference of data into the system, where you don't have to do 1 hour of treatment and then 2 hours of data entry on what you're doing. That is just not, and I can understand what you're saying. Like that is it's a buzzkill, right? It's like, you don't want to be sitting there doing that. But I love how you're talking about these new treatments and these new therapies that could have been pretty much game over, I don't know, a decade ago or something to that effect. And now you're getting successful, positive outcomes. That's a game changer. That's something to get you out of bed at night. That is wonderful. Talk to us a little bit about, so we're not telling you what to say. You're telling us what you would like to say. That's a key difference. I want to tune into your passion, what you're excited about, what you want to get across to people, not just because there'll be a oncologist there. People in your profession will be there. There'll be people on all sides of the ball. There'll be cancer survivors there. People have gone through the process and come out on the other side. And you want to hear about these things. Possibly could be people are newly diagnosed. They have no idea what this journey is going to be about. If they can get some level of comfort, at least some knowledge, some intelligence of what is going to happen along this road. Now I want to ask you this, because I'm very excited. I'm very curious about it. Winning the cancer journey. You kind of like just broke free and went out there. You're being an author, you're being a speaker. Talk to us more about that.
Yeah, so this has been something that has been brewing in my mind for years. And I think a lot of it stemmed from the fact that patients and their caregivers need much more support than we can provide in our 20-minute consultations in the clinic. And there's so much more to oncology care than just picking a chemotherapy to give a patient. And I can't promise to cure everybody. That would be, I'd be lying. I'd be leading falsehoods. But I can help making sure that the pathway from A to Z is as smooth, comfortable, and positive as it can be, right? And so, my theory is that patients need to be educated and they need to understand what they're doing. So it takes away a lot of the anxiety and the fear. It also helps you to participate better in your own care with your physician. If you understand the options and the treatments and the recommendations, it's much easier to have a conversation about them. And I found that a lot of people also just didn't know how to help the patient. And so I spent a lot of time with my patients, family members, caregivers, what have you, helping them help the patient. And that whole aspect of care actually isn't really taught anywhere. And so a lot of this just came out of my own experience and my own practice of, what do you do when your sister has cancer? What can you do to help her? How can you help her? What is useful to them? And that sort of thing. I wanted to let patients evaluate my recommendations, but with the eye of understanding. So my book, which is due to be published in about 2 months, is called Winning the Cancer Journey. I like to keep it consistent. So, brand recognition is actually a walk through a patient from the day that they get something wrong. Somebody tells them that there's something wrong and they have to go get testing, to a biopsy, to how to read the pathology report, to the different types of treatment, to the preparation work, all the way through treatment, all the way to survivorhood. And from a doctor's perspective, but it's written on a patient level. So it's really a culmination of what I did every day for the last 25 years. And one of the things that brought me the idea that this needed to be done was that I was already doing it for so many people. I was doing it for my patients, of course, but I was also doing it for friends and family. Anybody who knew somebody that knew me that had cancer, I got that phone call. And so what do they need to do? Okay, here are the next steps. Here's what I recommend you do. This is who you should call. This is, buy this type of notebook, buy this kind of water bottle. And just sort of, the really basic educational things that once you get a diagnosis of cancer, you can't even think straight half the time. And so somebody just needs to break it down for you, walk you through it, and help make it easier for you. So that's what I do.
That is a lot to unpack there. What you said is so important. I know if I find myself and not feeling so well, going to the doctor, getting a diagnosis, getting a test back, and getting that message, that understanding, hey, you have the big C, I'd be like, of course, yeah, you don't hear anything else but those last 4 or 5 words you just said, probably for the next 4 or 5 weeks. You're like, like, well, what? I think my question comes to mind for me is like, well, when we talked, what stage? My knowledge of cancer is very little. So I'm like, all right, is there stage 1, stage 2? I don't even know what these stages really mean, but I know 4 is kind of bad. So I'm like, all right, what are we talking about here? And then you got to go through that whole process. So you're not only a physician, you can also look at yourself as a mental health counselor, because you're telling someone that you have a life-threatening situation, and I'm going to help walk you through this. And I know in today's world, there's a lot of people like, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to Google all this information, and I'm going to self-diagnose myself, and I'm going to figure all this out, and I'm going to go on these special diets, and I'm going on this crazy journey before I come back. So help us, talk to me as if I were this new patient of yours.
Oh. Usually the first thing that we need to do is to get the facts. We need to know, what cancer is it? Where is it? Where did it start? And then get you on the pathway to getting that evaluated and then to start treatment, right? And so the first thing that needs to be done when somebody calls me, for example, and says, I have a CAT scan and there's a spot in my lung and they think it's cancer. Okay. So there's, different levels of tests that need to be done so you can stage the cancer, so you know where else it has spread. You need to get a tissue diagnosis, so you need a biopsy, and that needs to be arranged. The pathology needs to be interpreted. And then they need to be referred to particular specialists, because although depending on where you are in the country, there are oncologists that treat everything because it's not a population dense area. And then you move into cities like New York, for example, or Houston, and you have a lot of medical centers there. And then the doctors become much more subspecialized. So I subspecialized in breast and gynecological cancers at MSK. But you might not find that in Idaho. But you need to get to a physician that can then take over your care. And so, it's not too hard to find a doctor. It's always best if you can get a personal recommendation, obviously, or a recommendation from one of your physicians that you already trust. And if you don't hit it off with your doctor, or if you don't feel that the personality or the way the office runs or the color or the walls, I don't know what I've heard everything. If it doesn't mesh, then you have to go get another opinion. I do like second opinions as well, but you have to be wary of when you do that, because you may end up with 2 different opinions. And then you're left trying to figure out which is the right one. And then you may be seeking a third opinion. And now you're running around and you're not treating your cancer because you're getting all these opinions. So I like second opinions in theory. If the treatment recommendation doesn't seem to make sense to you, obviously you should. But, I always warn people, you don't want to be putting off life potentially saving treatment while you're shopping for doctors. So that's a very tricky situation, which is why, having somebody like me on board as a concierge to sort of help you, guide you, listen, redirect you if necessary, because I've done this all already. And so I think that that's the type of service also that I would provide, right? To be the sounding board. I call it like the doc in your pocket, right? The doc. So when you're not sure, you can call me, and then I go over it with you and help clarify everything.
This is important information. This is so important. I want to step back into the world of just the world that you're in, medical oncology, not just treating the patient. That's one thing, the physician to patient experience. And you alluded to a little earlier, is that physician to, whether it's a corporation, the hospital system, and then pharma and some other things. Talk to us about the good of that. And again, also the challenges that it poses when your primary goal is to help the patient.
Okay. I think what you're asking me is, how does the influence of insurance and pharma affect how I care for the patient?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, that's a big topic also. So pharma is great because they get the drugs and they bring the drugs to you, usually on clinical trials. And especially when you work for a big academic institution, you run many clinical trials. But limitations are that not every hospital runs every clinical trial. And so there might be a great drug at that hospital on trial, but we don't have that one. We have this one. So there's a little bit of that. It also will affect our ability to, what we can offer to patients, obviously, as well. If it's not on formulary or if it's not being covered by medical insurance, then it's harder to get the drug for a patient. We run into that all the time. I was lucky that I was at an institution where we had quite good clout, and so usually could negotiate the medications that we wanted. That was all done way above my pay grade, but the insurance companies really can affect how you can treat a patient, and that's unfair, and it's unsettling. They'll in most recent times, I'm remembering, immunotherapy for certain types of uterine cancer. And you could have it if you had X and Y, but you couldn't have it if you had A and B in your cancer or whatever. And then, the insurance companies are not necessarily doctors that are reviewing these requests for the medications, because you have to get prior authorization, and they would just reject everything straight off the bat. And then you'd spend weeks chasing, trying to get them to reverse that decision. And the decision was made on a faulty premise in the first place, because they didn't really read the application, or somebody on our end filled out the application wrong and they put down A and B instead of X and Y. And then the insurance company rejected and no, that was wrong. Can we try again? And weeks trying to get that done again. So that's hard, because, all these targeted therapies that I'm speaking of and the immunotherapy, unless you're on a clinical trial and the drug company is paying for those particular drugs, they have to go through your insurance company, and they are high ticket prices. And so, it's a lot of work on, the physician side, on the office staff side, to get these drugs pre-authorized in many times. So that really does affect our ability to treat.
And we've all heard those stories, heard a lot of different things. I don't understand how pricing is done, how access is done. So that you're talking about affordability, accessibility, location, what's best for you. I hear that a lot. Well, you know what? This is working. This treatment is working very, very well, but how do you get access to it? And we're talking about, you could be a life-threatening situation. So you want to get that, the best treatment for you in the best possible way. And you want a decision to be made, the best decision to be made. And those outside influences can definitely be detrimental. I want to change the conversation just a little bit, because we alluded to something earlier around EMR, which is electronic medical records. It's technology. And technology is now definitely being utilized in different ways in healthcare settings than it ever was before. And we had the big craze of telehealth. Everybody understands what that is. Good, bad, or indifferent during the COVID time made sense to do. But now we're getting into where artificial intelligence is actually doing some kind of analysis or predictive analysis that never was done before, good or bad, but it can do things faster, just like a calculator can calculate numbers a lot quicker than trying to do it in your head. How do you feel about these changes that potentially could be good for you, that makes things a lot quicker, you can get information quicker, or do you see it as something that could be detrimental? Ready to elevate your brand with 5-star impact? Welcome to the Funnel Brand Podcast, your gateway to exceptional personal growth and innovative business strategies. Join me as I unveil the insider strategies of industry pioneers and branding experts. Discover how to supercharge your business development, harness the power of AI for growth, and sculpt a personal brand that stands out in the crowd. Transform ambition into achievement. Explore more at 5starbdm.com for a wealth of resources. Ignite your journey with our Brave Brand Blueprint and begin crafting your standout 5-star future today.
Well, I guess it depends on how you're using it. I personally wasn't using very much AI, or at least I wasn't aware of it. It seems to be creeping in everywhere, and you don't even realize what's going on. It's on your Google searches already. Comes up at the top of the box, and that's actually AI. I find it interesting, but I right now I still see quite a few limitations. So, for example, if I were to look up what is the standard of care first line therapy for ovarian cancer, it might get it right. It might not. It might pull in, some of the references that may be helpful or might not be exactly on the mark. I'm not sure that it's been utilized enough in this space that I trust it completely. I would actually much rather do a PubMed search than a chat GPT search on medical topics, right? And have to read through articles myself and decide which are the important articles to base my decision on. So if you feed all of that information into ChatGPT, like use this article by this author and use this, this set of data to come up with your diagnosis and your recommendations, sure, I think it would increase the likelihood that it's accurate. But now I'm already doing half the work because you have to prompt it properly, right? Yeah. I think that, I see it being potentially helpful in the space where people are calling in with specific symptoms or side effects, and you could potentially have a chatbot that's answering, what should you do if you are constipated, and have sort of like an algorithm that they work through, and like they can, instead of taking, message will say that they're constipated, but once you get on the phone with them, you realize that, well, they're not eating either, and they haven't had anything to drink in 2 days. And so I think that, if the person types in, I have constipation, and the chatbot answers it, you've missed a huge opportunity to actually help the patient with what else or what was really wrong. Maybe they were constipated because they weren't drinking for 2 days. And, there's a whole bunch of things that go through it that I haven't seen yet AI be able to replace the thought process of a human being taking care of another human being. But I'm sure it's coming.
There's some things that are happening. They call causal AI or AGI, which is kind of a generative intelligence. More than just a chatbot is a certain type of AI.
Right.
You talked about a little bit more with precision medicine. Anytime you got to do large computations in a very short period of time, it can be very influential. But you bring up another good point. There are known and then there are unknown variables. And what a machine will do, it'll take the known and do probably very well with that, but it's not considering the unknown for the most part. What has not been said. Because that is not there, it's going to come out with a different result than as opposed to something else. But I am of the ilk of human to AI to human type interactions. You don't take the human outside of the equation ever. You still have AI that can get you information that you can then make a decision on or not make a decision on, depending on what it is, and then kind of move forward. The whole point, because I've been in technology for a long time, I feel technology can do two things really, really well that you can actually trust. Number one is that it's fast. So if you need something to be done very quickly, that's automated. It's always something that happens. It's not a lot of intangibles there. It's very, very good. So speed is awesome that it can do that. And then communication, give you various types of communication that you couldn't do and otherwise. So you have text, you have video, you have now, what we're doing right now, video conferencing. You can do all these things very, very quickly, very, very well, even in the imagery world, right? If you need to, when you look at a problem, business problem, even a healthcare problem, you say, hey, if I need something to be done very quickly, maybe I can start looking at technology. Or if I need something that needs to be communicated very quickly again, maybe I can look at technology. When you allude to like the EMR, that's just a intake. It's more of a you call like almost a CRM type tool that they take, and then they can do other things with billing and other stuff, but it has to get the information, you have to input it. So it's not doing anything automated. So the communication is very slow because you're the one that's communicating to bring the information in. And
I'm a good typist.
Yeah, you're a typist, right? So everything I just said, like, hey, Grant, it's slowing me down and it's not communicating very effectively. So that's a poor use of the technology that now is starting to get better than what it was. But those are the things I really talk about. So when you think like, hey, how can I get records very quickly? Or I want to know if this person was treated at MKC or at my facility, but were they also treated in Houston, for instance? How quickly can I get that information? That's what they're kind of working on now. Quickness of information, speed of light in that aspect. So then you can make an intelligent decision. Because I personally would want a 25-year veteran in the oncology space giving me information about my situation that I can understand than getting a lightning quick answer out of a chatbot. And then I'm sitting there like, which one am I really going to trust here? So there's got to be some trust and some credibility that goes along with it. Before I let you go, I want to give you the mic because this is so important because, yes, you're an author. Yes, you're a keynote speaker. Yes, you're a 20-year veteran in oncology. I want to know your why. Why did you get into this space? And what do you feel the space is going to go through over the next maybe 10 or 20 years? And frame it like this. If you would have talked to an earlier oncologist that's coming into the space, maybe they've got 2-3 years of experience, what would you say to that person?
So I got into oncology because I really wanted to help people. I loved being a doctor. I loved the molecular biology behind it. That was my major at Princeton. And then I went to medical school, and I loved cancer because I thought it was so fascinating and interesting on a scientific level, medical level as well. And I love caring for oncology patients because they really need my help, and I really can help them. There are some fields of medicine where you don't really feel like you're making a difference, but oncology, you really do. And I had some very, heartfelt patients that, were almost like family, not really, but I mean, you know what I'm saying, like very close to me. And still I have, many of them are still, following me at this point. I think it's very important to remember as you're progressing through the years and through the technology and through the administration and everything, to just always try and remember why you're there. Nobody goes into oncology to be a billionaire. You go into oncology because it's where your heart and your passion is, and caring for people and the love of the science and medicine. And so it's, in terms of preventing burnout, which is so real these days, it's really important to always, at the end of the day, remember all the things that you did and you did well, because unfortunately, especially in corporate medicine, you only hear about what you did wrong. They don't, there's never any celebration of the patient was pregnant and you got her through chemotherapy and she comes back for a follow-up visit with the baby that got chemotherapy while she had breast cancer while she was pregnant with that baby, or the woman who got cancer right before she was supposed to get married, and we gave her chemo, and then she got married and she went on her honeymoon and she came back and she had surgery, and and she's living her life and she's feeling well, or there's endless stories. But at the end of the day, it's hard when you're tired at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and you're dripping home, and all you can think about is all of the work you still need to do. But it's so important to every day take a journal and write down 2 or 3 things that made you smile today, or that brought warmth to your heart about what you do. And I think just, again, always bring it back to the center and remembering why you're there and what you're fighting for is, it helps to get through all of the rest of the bureaucracy and the difficult parts about the business side of being a doctor.
Man, well said. Heartfelt words from Dr. Tiffany. This has been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I know you got a book coming out. You said it's going to come out in a couple months, which probably will put us now. It would probably be in the November timeframe. Is that about right?
I have a feeling we're probably not going to launch until January. I might put it out earlier as a Kindle version, but I don't think the hardcover will come out until January.
Well, we're going to be looking for that. I know it'll be vastly available, Barnes & Noble, all your different outlets, Amazon, that type of thing. If somebody does need to get in contact with you, it's very important information that you're putting out there. What is the best possible way?
So I'm on Facebook, and you can look up my name. You can find me on Facebook, Tiffany Trostle-Sandoval. I have a private group that's called Winning the Cancer Journey that you can search for. You have to answer questions to get into it. It's for cancer patients and their caregivers. And I have a website. Guess what it's called?
Winning the Cancer Journey?
www.winningthecancerjourney. And there's a contact form that's in there as well. And so you can fill that out and that comes straight to my email. So anything I can do to help anyone, I'd be honored. I do have an online course that will be launching in the fall as well. And I hope to have many of our participants join me on that.
Thank you so much for being part of this program. And your entire audience can tune into all the episodes of Follow the Brand at 5-Star BDM. That is the number 5-Star, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Take care, Grant. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us on the Follow Brand Podcast. Big thanks to Full Effect Productions for their incredible support on each and every episode. Now the journey continues on our YouTube channel, Follow the Brand TV series. Dive into exclusive interviews, extended content, and bonus insights that will fuel your success. Subscribe now and be a part of our growing community, sharing and learning together. Explore, engage, and elevate at Follow Brand TV series on YouTube. Stay connected, stay inspired. Till next time, we will continue building a 5-star brand that you can follow.